Hello and welcome to Larnaca Airport for the second report about how things are going with my Wizzair all-you-can-fly pass. Tonight we're on the way from Larnaca to Abu Dhabi with an overnight stop or a short stay at Abu Dhabi Airport before travelling on to Tashkent in Uzbekistan. How much is all of that costing me? Well, a couple of cents under 20 euros for two sectors, so I'm pretty happy about that. If you remember, in early February I bought the Wizzair all-you-can-fly pass for 599 euros. After that, your first sector is totally free, and then every time you fly you pay effectively 10 euros in whatever the local currency is for each sector. The big question though is, are those sectors available? And I've already had plenty of adventures which I'll tell you about later as we go off on this epic journey. So join me and let's fly the friendly skies, as they used to say at United with Wizzair. I found somewhere to take a seat now as well, so I can give you the exact details of the flights. I am travelling first of all on 5W7006 from Larnaca to Abu Dhabi. That departs Tuesday the 4th of March today at 19:15 and will arrive in Abu Dhabi at 1:05 in the morning. Then after that I have to wait at the airport for a little while, and then my second flight is from Abu Dhabi to Tashkent, and that leaves tomorrow morning, the 5th therefore, at 06:05 and arrives in Tashkent local time at 10:30 a.m. So that's plenty of time for the connection. Now of course that is very important, because when you travel on a low-cost airline there's absolutely no guarantee of the connection. If a flight's late, for example the inbound flight, and you're on your own, you have to make arrangements for yourself. You have no contract with the airline. Now that's not the case when you buy a ticket, let's say with Emirates, and you bought it from Larnaca via Dubai through to Tashkent. Then if something goes wrong, it's their role to look after you and make sure you get there. But what about the difference in price? This Wizzair option probably gets me there a little bit faster than Emirates would have done. And I've checked prices. Had I bought a ticket today to head out to Tashkent from Larnaca with Emirates, that would have cost me 650 euros. And if I booked it in 2 weeks' time, 659 euros. So hardly any difference. So there is a massive saving compared to going with Emirates. However, the cynics amongst you would say, well, are you really saving that much money? How much would it have cost had you bought the tickets as normal tickets on Wizzair? Well, I checked. If I had bought them yesterday, I only bought this one day in advance, then basically the ticket from Larnaca to Abu Dhabi would have cost me 79 euros 99, and the ticket from Abu Dhabi to Tashkent would have cost 359 UAE dirhams. Now that I think is around about £76. So in euros, what that's going to be, let's say for argument's sake, about 85. So all the same, I am saving, as far as I can work it out, around about 105 euros, which is pretty good really. So I'm pretty happy with the price side. But that's not to say that the Wizzair all-you-can-fly pass is without its problems. And we'll discuss some of those issues when we get on board the plane. See you a little bit later. Very prompt boarding, so walking down the ramp now towards the aircraft. There's one of the usual debates at the gate with passengers about hand luggage. They're in the wrong, and you know, with Wizzair it's just not worth playing that game, because you will get fined at the gate. Well, it's not a fine, charged, and you could argue it's excessive. The thing to do is do what I do, simply bring a small rucksack, minimise your costs. I haven't paid for a seat reservation, I've not paid for anything at all. That's why it's 10 euros. But if you have got extra luggage, buy it in advance. I looked this evening, and had I wanted an extra bag, I think it would have cost about 28 euros, and it's a lot more at the gate. Don't make that mistake, it's simply not worth it. This is an aircraft from their Abu Dhabi base. You can see that on the tail, and the fact that the registration is a UAE registration there. Hello. How are you? How are you? It's very nice to see you. I'm very well, thank you. Everything's going very well to plan so far. We actually pushed back 8 minutes early, and that's important on this trip because one of my travel hacks with Wizzair is to leave check-in as late as possible. You can check in a long time in advance if you want to, but my view is that generally if you wait until 3 hours 5 minutes before departure, the chances are better that you get an aisle or window seat. And it's worked on this occasion. I've got an aisle seat. It doesn't always work, but more often than not it does. And I think the reason why is because Wizz Air actually allocate the middle seats earlier in the check-in process for people who haven't actually paid extra. So it's a risk. I don't really mind. I do notice, I think, I could be wrong. If I am, I apologise, but I think the leg room is a little bit tighter on the Abu Dhabi fleet than the aircraft I've taken from Larnaca, for example. So because the plane left early, I'm very confident I'll have more than 3 hours to check in at Abu Dhabi. Very comfortable, very nice cabin crew, mixture of nationalities, one very nice Ukrainian lady. They were quite clear about not filming on board the aircraft except yourself. So how is my experience actually going so far of the all-you-can-fly offer? Well, I'm pretty pleased. I've had a return flight, which I featured in an earlier video, from actually Larnaca to London. I've also flown return from Larnaca to Yerevan, and actually trying to get back from London, where I needed to be around about the 12th and 13th of February, was very difficult. They didn't really make any availability that I could see over the Valentine's Day period, apart from one flight to Bucharest. So my wife extremely kindly bought me a single ticket on British Airways to Munich from London, and then, believe it or not, I took a train from Munich to Budapest. A few pictures for you here, on a busy evening, very cold as well. I had to change in Salzburg, but I thought that was quite a good deal. It was 59 euros plus another 6 euros for seat reservations. I looked online, you could actually get it as low as 37 euros 99 if you booked in advance. Now I did this because it was the only way I could find that I'd be able to work my way back to Larnaca on the special offer. So I then flew from Budapest, which is after all Wizz Air's main base, to Athens for 10 euros, and then flew for 10 euros from Athens to Larnaca. So although I haven't always been able to get exactly where I want to go when I want to go, and I knew that would be the case, in the first month I've had 6 flights, and I've covered quite a lot of miles as well. And now this is really exciting. You know, this is the beginning of March, and I'm off from Larnaca all the way to Tashkent, as long as everything goes well tonight, for under 20 euros. Well, we've landed, and we landed early at about 7 minutes past 1. We were scheduled to land at 1:15, then proceeded through this beautiful new terminal, which has been open for about 1 year and 4 months, through the transfer facilities, which are fantastic. You don't need to take your laptops out or your toiletries, and although there were quite a few people, it was super fast. We then got through those controls, and this is the first time I've seen the new airport facilities. I used not to like this airport very much. It was very much the poor cousin of the 3 great airports of the Middle East. By that I mean Dubai International, Abu Dhabi, the poor cousin, and Doha in Qatar, which is actually my favourite airport in the region. And I'll tell you what, this is far less busy than Dubai at the same time of night. It's a calm oasis. In fact, it reminds me of Heathrow Terminal 5 from that perspective. And there are great facilities. When I landed, I thought I'd better just check about currency rules for Uzbekistan, and I discovered with horror that Apple Pay and Google Pay don't work in Uzbekistan, and that is very serious for somebody who counts on those systems entirely for their financial transactions these days. So thankfully I found an unbelievably friendly and helpful TravelX office, and they changed me about £180 for this. This is a wad of Uzbek money, so I should be allowed to stay in Uzbekistan for a few days, not get into any financial trouble, and pay for everything with cash, I expect. Anyhow, a big thanks to the team there, and if I remember their names rightly, it's Jamal, Sadiq, Rose and Mr. Sammy. If you're watching, you're a great team. Just checked in for my flight, and by checking in again relatively late, I've got a window seat, so I'm pretty happy. In fact, the 3 rows in front of me look as if they're empty, so it might even be better than that. Sorry. The security here is unbelievable as well, in a good sense. I left my bag on the ground and literally went 15 meters and the security guards picked it up straight away. Luckily I was able to put their minds at rest very quickly. Now 3:15 a.m. in the morning, still quite a long time to wait, but with all this beautiful architecture it's not so terrible. I just love all of these concrete arches and passageways, and then also the Arabic patterns, and the shops are beautiful as well. Quite a lot of cafes, and they're still open even though the airport, quite frankly, is fairly empty. We always think about airlines first, but you know, I think that if we're spending a few hours in transit, we ought to think about the airports as well. It's just as important. How pleasant is the experience going to be? Gate C39 is pretty much at the far end of the sea gate, so it's a little walk, but it's helped by the fact that there are travellators all the way along. And I have to say that this is not a low-cost airline terminal, that's for sure. It is beautiful, and it's got fantastic facilities. I mean, just look here. You can see that I can sit down on these rather nice green seats. You don't see those at very many airports. Also, there are long chairs, I suppose you call them chaises longues, something like that, for people to sit back, relax and even get a bit of sleep. And there's traditional airline seating as well, so it's a really comfortable lounge area. It's also something like 5:15 in the morning, 5:20, so I'm definitely fading. Probably going to board this aircraft and fall asleep, so you might not get many pictures of the second leg.
Shortly, cabin crew will pass through the cabin to ensure that you are ready for landing. Thank you. Dear passengers, welcome to Tashkent International Airport.
Well, I must admit to being absolutely shattered. It's 10:42 in the morning in Uzbekistan, and the flight was due to land at 10:30, which it did, and it took literally 3 minutes to get through the passport control, which is incredible when you think about it. But as a British citizen, actually no visa is required for stays under 30 days. Thank you so much for being with us on this journey with Wizzair. Do please comment on the video. Lots of you have opinions about the all-you-can-fly pass, but right now I am incredibly satisfied. Less than 20 euros from Larnaca in the heart of Cyprus to Central Asia. Let the adventure begin. Goodbye.